I think a free for all would be fun, but I'm kind of an asshole, so I'll try to rein it
Forced
in.
outies.
Ah, yeah.
What?
Yeah. And it's so
I don't even want to put down the worst one I know because I know
No, put it down. Put it down.
All
Hey.
right, if you say so.
Oh,
we haven't started yet. We need these reactions. We need these reactions.
No.
I want these genuine reactions for the actual episode.
We're upping our content game at Outiebyte Studio. Hello, Houston.
You could not be more off of the theme song. I'm sorry.
No, shut up, David. We're starting a band. We're going to get big.
Welcome back, everybody, to what I guess would call the free-for-all episode, where the questions that I asked in the last episode definitely only scratched the surface, plainly because I just didn't know what to ask. So now it is the opportunity for everyone to just info dump me, basically, on what this community actually is and what the fetish involves, because I wouldn't know what to ask if I don't know what the fetish is. So this is just an opportunity for me to learn, I guess. And so the way that we are doing it is everyone just types things into the chat, and I suppose if anything makes my mind explode, I will ask about it, and then they get to info dump me on what the heck it is. So just to reintroduce everybody, I am here with David. Say hi real quick.
Hello.
And Ava.
Hi.
And Jord.
Hello.
I'm going to just start scrolling in the chat now. I guess I will be listing it all off from what has been typed so far. Forced outies. I'm not even going to read anything else yet, because that is the thing that made my eyes bug out the second that it got typed. What? Just what? Please explain. Somebody.
It is people who don't have outies, like innies or in-betweenies, making them outies. And these can be done through the use of suction or heavy pressure, or oftentimes suction and like some rubber bands. But it's creating an outie belly button where there is none.
And keeping it that way.
What?
And sometimes keeping it that way. It can be very pleasurable for people to either look inside their belly button or feel things that like they've never really had the chance to like feel before. And since it's like all very tight and it gets very sore, it gets very like it gets more sensitive for a few people, but
that sounds like that could quickly lead to a medical emergency.
No. Remember what we were talking about before with all the tender spots? You know, those are now...
Oh, yeah, but you're still ripping at, like, scar tissue.
Well, we're not ripping at it. Like,
you're forcing an outie.
Tons of people have done it. And
that doesn't sound safe.
I think the most that's really happened is just soreness and a little bit of like woundage, but that's really all it can. It regenerates a little bit.
Yeah,
it regenerates. Just
a light wound.
That's a whole nother aspect of it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I think there's a little bit.
I didn't want to think.
There's a little bit of belly button lore that needs to go into this one. So,
okay, throw it down.
Are you talking about Outie Lover?
Huh?
Oh, I know
like
Outie Lover. That's the man.
First person who did all those videos who I'm not even sure is still alive or not.
Shit. I'm actually not aware. So this is something I've been experimenting with a little bit more recently. This has not been something that's like been a long-term thing for me. However, I did try to get into it back like when I was a teenager, and the bit of lore I wanted to share was one of the most common tools that was first introduced was this thing called the extractor, and it is this bright yellow thing that is not meant for anything sexual. It is for removing venom and like bee stings and stuff. And so it's this really intense suction. If you get stung by something, you put this cup on your skin and you press on the plunger, and then it puts this really strong suction on your skin, and takes out the venom or whatever. And actually, so I have one. I bought one when I was a teenager and actually had to use it once for a wasp sting. So it came in handy to have it around.
Something called the extractor.
Yeah, it sounds
so
nice, right?
That sounds like some Disney villain shit.
I do want to chime in. I do want to chime in on this because this is like a big part of my kink, actually.
Really? That's your wheelhouse, bro.
So
he's outiebyte, Ray. Put the pieces together.
So like there are like different types of outie belly buttons. Like they're not all the same. Like there are some that are thicker folds of skin, and there are others that are an actual like umbilical hernia where the intestines are like coming through a small hole in like the stomach, like there's like a small hole in within the muscle, and like a small little bit of intestine comes out and like pushes the skin out. That to me, like I don't like those kinds like whatsoever.
Yeah.
For me, there are innies that can be just naturally like mine. Like I can like grab underneath my belly button and it just sort of like unfolds out, you know, and there are many people who can do this. But
mine don't do that.
But there are people
I just
who,
tried. No, that sounds like a threat.
There are people who can do this very easily, and then there are others who have a much more difficult time, and that's where they bring in like a suction toy. So the two most common ones, one is the extractor, and the other one is those Chinese like cupping sets that you see. You sometimes see them like also advertised as just like nipple suction tools, where it's like a glass tube with a twist thing on the end. Like those also work really well. But the whole idea is to hold it in position with suction, and then you use a rubber band or string or whatever. And when you tie it, the string sort of slips under the part that's against your skin, and you just sort of hold it out temporarily like that, as long as you have it tied out. And yeah, sensations are heightened. Like when I pull mine out and tie it out, like my whole stomach becomes very sensitive, and it's a very, I don't know, just satisfying feeling when I do that. And also just visually, it's very satisfying. Just seeing somebody like pulling theirs out or messing with it, and I get to see it like change shape and whatnot. That's probably one of the most exciting aspects of the fetish for me.
Nothing could have ever prepared me for this topic. There's no way I would have ever been able to like ask this on my own.
I know.
Girl, you know you want a night with the extractor.
The extractor. Yeah, no, I never in a million years would have thought of that on my own. That's very what's the word? It's very innovative.
Innovative.
It's very
all right. Well, here,
crafty.
like, so here's the thing too, right? Like, even if you're not like going for that specifically, like I hooked up with somebody where just general suction tends to do that. So it's just like it just tends to kind of happen.
I always thought belly buttons were like rooted in place. I didn't know they could do that.
No, not at all. Not at all. Clearly, you need to be more, versed in the naval lore here, because like, yeah, like anything, it really depends what kind they have. But like, if you're interacting with it on that level, and depending on the intensity, like I've had a lot of things where it just happens.
I
guess it also does help. It does help if you have a more pudgy belly and like you can go a little deeper into your stomach, because and I'm definitely not speaking from experience, if you know what I mean, but like it's easier if you have more of a hold of it, and like the area that you are forcing is already very malleable. So it definitely differs from person to person.
And think about too, in the sense of like, we were talking a lot about liking the details, right?
Yeah.
So what's hotter than having full access to them out in the open, right?
That it's like a prolapse though.
Don't say it like that.
That's what it is.
No, not at all.
Is it not?
Oh,
Prolapse
That's
umbilicus
why
is just
I
a hernia.
am concerned.
don't ruin this for me.
Okay, moving on. Because we could stay on this topic the whole time, but we got to move on to the other terms that
She's
have
already
been...
got the mental damage, y'all. Keep going.
Yeah. Okay. Bugging.
Oh,
You know that one scene from The Matrix?
Oh.
yeah,
Yeah, there are people who get off to that.
a lot.
Oh.
But with actual
It's-
bugs sometimes.
It's probably like as niche into the fetish as you can go, because like there are different there are people who are like, oh, I wish I was super small and I could fit into a belly button, but there's this one specific scenario from The Matrix where somebody is bound and gagged and they have like this insect-like thing just slithering on their belly, and then it enters their belly button. Like,
Ow.
there are definitely there are factors of it. I think it's like how scaly the animal is, or like how much like it's forcing your way into you. But there's a fair amount of people who make art of bugging, like anime characters or OCs, or like there's even somebody who does like 3D animations of bugging, and he's done hundreds of those. So
Wow.
It's mostly art.
It is mostly art. I think it's that, and there's also this scene from the movie called Scourge, where where a creature enters into somebody's belly button through somebody's mouth. So those two movie scenes have really shaped what like just navel entry is, and I wonder how those writers stay awake at night knowing they're responsible for this.
What have you unleashed?
Wow.
There's
Yep.
another animated one, I can't remember, that has something like that. It's not Ergo Proxy, that's an anime. It's this other like animated thing from the 90s, and it also has bugging in it. I'm gonna have to like deep dig
Okay.
on that one, but
So,
yeah.
so moving on to just the next topics. Temperature play, I can already know what that is. That's like the hot and cold, ice cubes, that kind of stuff, like wax candle, I assume. Needles / risk play. However, I know I can assume what that one is, but does anyone have experience with that? Anybody? No?
I know some people that does. I believe outiebyte does. If he
What?
wants to get into it.
What? You speak right now.
Throw me under the bus here. Okay.
Damn, Dave, brutal.
Sorry, Audi.
Okay, so you're talking about needle play?
You see,
Okay.
I'm just
Okay, for me, okay, there's a line though. I don't like the idea of a needle going into somebody's stomach and like fucking with their organs. Like that to me is like really gross, and I draw the line there. I have seen content where, you know, they will pull their belly button out and like tie it out, and they'll only put a needle in that's as kind of like as tall as their outie is, so the needle isn't technically like going into their like stomach cavity, you know what I mean? So to me that's like on the much safer end of needle play. But there's this one guy, I don't know his username, but he does these videos with skinny Asian women that are just
Like
really petite.
Belly Cool or something.
Yeah,
Belly Cool,
yeah, and he uses like these really long acupuncture needles, stuff that's I would say like 4+ inches long, and he puts them inside them and then like actually grabs the tip and like wiggles it around.
okay.
And yeah, and that to me is like that's way too much.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I don't know, like
It's
there's kind of
bad.
like a shocking element to it. But I mean, I have like needles at my house. Like I actually have a I can't believe I'm telling you this. I have a box of like just like belly button fetish like play toys, from just pencils to suction toys to like I have a small box of hypodermic needles that are really short. They're only like an inch to an inch and a half long, but they're like meant for, let's say, people that are injecting insulin into them like daily. So they're meant to be, they're really fine needles, like really high gauge.
Some would consider this softcore torture.
I guess you could call it that, but it's like you're
putting a needle in your belly button.
No, like you don't understand. He's
yeah, I don't understand.
No. He's doing this in a really controlled setting, right? And he's
Well,
taking
yeah.
serious precautions to make sure that somebody's not genuinely getting punctured.
Oh, absolutely.
There are we need to stress this is like we're already a niche, right? This is like the niche of a niche of a niche.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
there is not a lot of people out there, and there's like a in-depth level of sadomasochism to the people who are like, oh yeah, I just want to fucking stab somebody. Like that shit's not okay.
It does get really extreme. Like you can find a lot of, I'm not kidding, like literal belly button stabbing videos where they're using a long knife and it's intense. Yeah, it's
like, don't scare her, Obi, don't scare her.
I know. But no, I'm just saying
we just started
we are
in,
just informing her. We're just informing her that this exists in the world, that there are people who are using the belly button as an entry point to do like legit stabbing play.
Yeah, and that shit's dangerous. Like you gotta know. Like, and I think we can all agree that's where we really draw the line intensely.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to fucking hurt somebody.
Exactly.
Okay. Good to know.
Actually, that brings up, I did have that same ex of mine who was talking about it must be so hard for you to see this stuff all the time. When I was first talking to her about it, she was like, so there's like torture? I'm like, yeah, don't worry about that. She's like, okay, you're not into that, are you? And I'm like, I mean, not really. Like, it is what it is. She's like, good, because like everything else is fine, but that's a little scary. And I'm like, yeah, like
wow.
some people they're gonna treat things a little differently depending on their kind of role in the bedroom. But if you get somebody who's genuinely like, I'm just gonna beat the shit out of you, no, in any context, no, like that's not okay.
And Ava, have you ever messed with like needle play or anything like that before?
No, I'm staying quiet. What was that?
Oh no, go on.
Sorry.
I was just saying I'm staying quiet because this isn't really my thing. I'm definitely on the soft side of the spectrum. I like the gentle stuff. Anything that draws blood is not for me. So
yeah,
thanks for
I
asking.
agree with Dave. It's like this whole thing of like, for me, any attachment I have to like even nicher stuff is just general appreciation for the thing, as opposed to the act being done. So like I like worship and stuff like that, but when it comes to like in depth, oh yeah, I'm just gonna stab something again. No, thank you.
Yeah, I think for me personally, like I'm really into like the other person having a really pleasurable experience. And I mean, obviously some people are into pain. But I'm not interested, and also just it wouldn't do it for me personally. But yeah. And also, like, I think Jord was saying earlier about telling an ex about this. I actually had a similar experience with my first boyfriend that I told about this fetish. Like, I was just telling him different things about it. And I did tell him, like, some people are into torture, some people are into needle play. And after I told him that, he didn't believe me when I told him I wasn't into it. He was like, why would you tell me that if you aren't into it? And he thought I was like secretly into it for the rest of our relationship.
Correlation does not equal causation, Mr. Ex-boyfriend.
No.
That's not how it goes. I kind of like, I haven't had anything quite like that beyond that, but there's that one creator, Fantasy Apollo, that like, I don't know if any of y'all are familiar, but like definitely some intense stuff. And when it came to like just general worship, it's like, oh yeah, this is great. And then it's like punching. And I'm like, oh, like somebody help this poor girl.
Yeah, belly punching is like a massive category for within just like our bubble that we're in. There's a lot of people into belly punching.
And it's just, I'm just like, I feel for them. Like, yo, do you need medicine? Are you okay?
You can't see me right now, but my mouth is wide open on the floor, just casually talking about so many things. Belly punching?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you need to think of the general tummy as a canvas. And like anything,
punched?
Not to be punched, no, not necessarily. But just like anything, you can branch out. The sky's the limit. And so some people, they got that sadist dog in them, and they really just correlate that with their general attraction in that area, and then it becomes this whole thing.
Why would someone
It's kind of like a blend of like BDSM in a way. You know, there are those like spanking paddles and stuff that are sometimes used on stomachs and whatnot, and it's, you know, it kind of just
punching
back
is just
to the,
so much more vicious.
Like I personally wouldn't, from what I've seen of videos of it, it's not like they're full on winding up like Muhammad Aliing the shit out of somebody, you know? Like these punches are pretty pulled for the most part, and a lot of the content, like I'm sure there's stuff that's genuine where it's like, yeah, I'm gonna hit you as hard as I can, but a lot of it is pretty like put on, you know. There's just it's
because the majority of the
it.
content in our sphere is like produced content by like fetish studios and stuff, and of course they're not going to be punching their models and whatnot, you know. You do have those offshoots of people making their own content where they're, you know, they're not pulling their punches,
and that's why we love the outiebytes of the world, because they keep things safe and genuine. Thanks, bro.
Your community loves to promote you, huh?
Hey, bro, I calls it like I sees it. All right.
Okay.
I want you guys to give her a better idea of like what the landscape of the belly button fetish looked like, let's say 2 years ago, where you go to find this content, maybe how separated it is. Can you guys like speak to that at all?
May I? Love to, well, go for it, Jord.
Actually, no. I've talked enough. Abe, you go first.
Okay, cool. So I can offer like some old time stuff, but recently I've been kind of less active in general compared to how I used to be. So the first thing I ever found online related to belly buttons, which I've told outiebyte about this before, so I wonder if any of you guys have heard this too, was Brussels navels. Did anyone else see that site? It was this guy.
No.
Oh man, whoa. You and me, outiebyte. It was this guy who just walked around on the street and took pictures of people's belly buttons, and I don't remember what year that was. It must have been like late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah, so that was like the first thing I saw. That was before I realized it was like sexual. I was probably like 7 or something. I don't know. But once I realized like, oh, this is a fetish, the first part of the community I got really active on was OBF. So that was the official belly button forum. And that, I really enjoyed that. And after that dissolved, I never really felt like I found a space that I liked after that. But like I said, I haven't looked recently. So with that forum, they had like pictures, they had stories, which I was a really big fan of the stories. And just people talking. And I think I might have dipped out before it took a big nosedive, so I didn't closely follow that. But that was around the time I was like 14, 15. Hi. And I remember also like around that same time, this was when I really started seeking out content. YouTube was the main way I would find stuff at first. Like when I was...
The control.
Huh?
The fucking control, YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, that was like right when YouTube started. This was like 2007. It was still pretty young. And I remember just being shocked that they had that kind of content there. And I feel like it's actually much harder to find good stuff on YouTube nowadays. But yeah, I mean, I might pass it off to other people in terms of like what the landscape is like now or more recently. But I've found it really hard to consistently find content. You know, I do look on Instagram and like a few other sites, but especially, you know, you would think like as a woman in this community, I would have like lots of stuff to choose from, but is not the case. I feel like there are a lot of men in this community, but they are more consuming content rather than posting content of themselves. So if I'm looking for guys, most of the time it's gay guys who don't want to talk to women. At least that's been my experience. So I found that really difficult. But yeah, that's like a brief overview. And I would love to hear what everyone else's experiences have been.
If I may, as for the content sphere in general, when I was coming up and I was around the same age as Ave, like 13, 14, 15, it was mostly YouTube. And there's a lot of content that I would see upload on there that I haven't seen again. And it used to be old clips for sale stuff or like the Russian videos and stuff like that. And those are like lost to time. That's like practically lost media at this point, and I'm always searching for those. But since then, like occasionally you'll find stuff on there, but the YouTube police usually nuke the channels associated with it pretty fast. So Instagram, and now weirdly enough Discord, where I got to talk to Audi for the first time, are really good sources for that. Because like if you just search like specific tags on Instagram, you'll find a lot of content creators. And then this server I got invited to was actually from somebody I met off Instagram. Got invited there, and it's been popping off. And so there's all these different channels for posting about all different niche things and whatnot. And it's been a great resource for finding all sorts of other content, other people who are like-minded, it's been great. But yeah, I'd say mostly Instagram.
Okay.
You're lucky that I've studied this for like 10 years because I have a feeling I've been to like every naval site, all the innies and the outies, as it were, of like
Professor.
I think 2021 is actually when it started to get more mainstream, as in all the naval content started to come to like less obscure platforms and started to get noticed by more people. Because from 2014 to like 2019 or 2020, I think YouTube was like the biggest crux. But before that, there were all the forums. So OBF, I caught the very tail end of OBF. It got deleted in like 2015 or so. Navalicious, which I was never a part of, but I know because they have like an extra YouTube account. The only one that I know of like 2000s and before, of like 90s, there's this one site that, thank God, it's still running. It's called Belly Button Bonanza, and it has
That's such a good name.
Like, yeah, it's like that show from like the 60s. It's that theme, which is kind of a little off-putting for somebody who's like, I just want to see belly buttons, and I'm uncomfortable if belly buttons are mixed with anything. But it's like they have like old photos of all these celebrities, of Pamela Anderson, of Christina Aguilera, of Britney Spears, of Mariah Carey, and they have like all these individual ones. And I think that was probably the first website I went to that like dealt with celebrities. In regards to the pre 2021 world, which was just coming out of its shell then, I think Instagram was like a great transition point from like the board-based, fairly anonymous stuff of the 2010s and the 2000s. And now you have more people who are getting engaged. You have people who are making content. You have people like outiebyte who's actively searching for people who have experiences so people can connect with them more. It's become more engaged. That's what I would say, which is definitely not how it used to be at all.
I've been looking at a word that I wanted to bring up that someone wrote in. It says albinophilia? Albinophilia?
Oh, that was me. I
What?
think it's literally just the scientific term for the fetish we have.
Oh,
Like I think
okay.
Alvino is for the actual navel.
So
and
we were all a
then
bunch of Alvins?
Yeah, we're all Alvins, but not the
Okay.
chipmunk variety. We don't stand that in this house.
That can
I
be
think
before we started the podcast, you guys were talking about having some sort of a way to find each other. You could have a little button of Alvin Chipmunk.
No!
That way.
That way.
So
No.
that way you'll know.
We're trying to be taken seriously.
Yeah,
That's
how
true.
the fuck are we going to be taken seriously with fucking
My
Alvin and
bad.
the Chipmunks? No way, Jose.
It would be funny though.
So you
What's
said
up?
like the scientific way to say navels. I don't even know if there's a proper etymology for albinophilia. Like, because there are a lot of there are also a lot of statistics in the naval sphere that like are dubious. Like there was that one thing, and I think it's on our Wikipedia page. Yes, we do have a Wikipedia page, and
We do indeed.
it is puny, and it's definitely written by a lot of people who are in that loop. Because there's this one thing that says, like, in 2012, belly buttons were the second most searched query term for fetishes on Google. And
Goddamn right.
I think somebody may have dreamed up that statistic because
Fuck.
it's fairly insignificant. And two, I mean, I'd like to see the charts. I'd like to see how everything stacks up.
Show me the facts.
I don't know.
Seriously, the first time I saw that, I was like, this is bullshit. Where is this coming
It
from?
seems
Yeah.
something reeks of bullshit, but whatever. I'll take what I can get.
Okay, so it's just the scientific term. What about stuffing?
So I also put that one
Is
down.
that let me guess. Is that people like shoving stuff into their belly button?
Not quite. This is more of a general thing that's adjacent to our thing, where there's just people who like being fed until they're,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
I've heard about that.
they're very full, you know. So I only put it down there because it's adjacent. Like
Okay.
once again, for me personally, it's a thing of like it's adjacent to what I like. So I just like general exposure. I'm not really personally into the whole process of, somebody eating way more than they should, because like you get a lot of people who used to be in that who talk about like health problems and stuff like that, but it is a part of it.
Audi put in a term that says true navel piercing. What is that? Is that like a piercing, but it's like in there? Or
Take it
is it something
away,
else?
He has
host.
suddenly
I
become
mean,
silent.
I know that term, and I don't really have a reaction to it. It's like, oh, okay, it is,
What?
but I think I'll let someone else describe it. Somebody that
Well,
has, because I don't
the
really think about it
host,
that much.
the host is AFK, I think. So we gotta.
I'm gonna let you
Oh
guys
no,
take
we
it.
got to figure this out.
Oh,
Oh
okay.
wait, there he is.
Oh my
I
god.
mean, in the context of Audis and stuff, it's like a navel piercing that goes right through a navel. Like instead of piercing like the
Okay.
top half, like instead of piercing the stomach, it's a navel piercing that goes in your navel. Like it goes through the back, or like it goes through either end if you have an Audi. But it's like you're actually piercing
Okay.
your belly button.
Okay.
Is that good? Is that right?
That's my understanding.
I had no fucking idea, bro.
Yeah,
I
that's
knew.
that's pretty much it. Like when people, like you said, either pierce their Audis or when they pull their belly buttons out and then pierce like across the top, and then it like doesn't really want to fold back in after that, especially if they're using like a straight bar. Obviously, it like prevents the skin from kind of like curling back in. Um, yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
You guys just threw out the most probably out there things for me to learn immediately. But what about like what would be considered more vanilla things of the fetish? Like what would you say
I mean,
the
we kind of.
well, not really. You said the words, but you didn't explain what it was, you know?
Well, I mean, I'll just kind of like reiterate what I was saying, where it's just like I think Ave and I are of a similar mindset, where we're more about general, worship and that sort of thing.
What
So
what
just
is
like
what does that mean?
in
Because
the
when you say
so
worship, I am imagining you
so
are like kneeling and literally bowing.
I mean,
And
maybe.
I mean the kneeling part maybe, but not the bowing part so much. Just like lavishing it with love and attention. Like you would think of it in the sense of foreplay, right?
okay.
Like I don't just look at a boob and I'm just like, man, that's a good boob. Like, you might feel it a certain way. You might work your way around the areola,
Okay.
like hit it with your tongue, kiss it, suck on it, that kind of thing. It's the same deal of like, all
Uh,
right, I might not just immediately poke. Maybe I'm gonna draw circles around and then go in. There's a process to it, and I always get frustrated when I see content where it's just like dudes acting like they're five, and they're just like, "Oh, I'm poking it," and it's like, bro, like, come on.
no.
It's like, God, don't just fucking prod it.
How
Like
common
it's
is
not a
that?
bug. Yeah, well, it just depends, because just like anything, there's plenty of like Audi himself is much more on the pro side of things with content creation, but there's a lot of amateur stuff. I typically like amateur stuff, but not when like the person behind the camera is just a dunce, and it's just like, bro, what are you doing? Like I
Yeah.
want like you're so shit at your job, bro. Like, come on. And so I do get mad at like dudes who I'm like, you're already halfway there, man. You got this attractive person to be all in on it, and you're just fucking like you're not even using the whole buffalo. What are you doing? So like, long story short, TLDR, treat it like you would anything else. I'm sexually attracted to this area. I'm gonna love on it like I would anything else.
I
Yeah,
think
and for
that
my
oh, I was just gonna bring up that I think that would definitely just that everything we've talked about has really helped kind of demystify the idea of it because I think people that don't have any idea of what it is, our minds just go straight to the most crazy thoughts instead of like, oh, I just like them. But like you guys have brought up in the past when you have talked about it, people immediately go, "Oh, torture needles! Oh, you pervert!" Da, 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 da. But like, I can totally see that's not at all what it really is.
Yeah, we just like it, man.
Yeah,
That's all it is.
I just think they're neat.
If I could add something.
Yeah.
For myself, like the idea of navel worship is like you're making somebody feel good, and you're also appreciating their belly button. And if you make them feel good by appreciating their belly button, then that's all the better.
Do you have any input on it, Ava?
Well, I definitely agree with everything that's been said about like worship. And that's kind of the main thing I'm into. I'm curious to pivot though. So I think all of us have really focused on talking about how we like to play with other people, but I'm curious what Jord and David like in terms of like having their own belly buttons played with, or like things they like to do to themselves. Yeah, I'm curious about that. And then like to throw in another thing, I don't know that there's a direct parallel to this or to this from guys, but something that I like is I like kind of feeling exposed and like wearing crop tops and stuff like that. And that's something that's actually like an active turn on for me. It's not something that I do very often because it gets me really distracted. But I wonder like if there's any equivalent for you guys, like if you feel like excited when, I don't know, your shirt is off, or like, I don't know, situations like that. Or again, like going back to the original stuff of just how you like to be played with by someone else.
You're touching on a very interesting point because I know a bunch of other people who like having their belly buttons exposed, and by know I mean I know of other people. I don't give much thought, but at the same time, I get very uncomfortable when I show my own, just because the fact that I forget I have a belly button sometimes, and just to look at my own is just weird. And I think I've kind of hidden this over like years and years of repression. But when I was younger, I did not want my belly button to show at all. Like I refused to wear button-up shirts, so I didn't have an undershirt. You know, I would stretch and I would hold the bottom of my shirt down. I didn't want anybody to see it. And, you know, I would be lying if I said if I haven't like done anything to my own, but there's not much I get out of playing with my own belly button. I don't really feel anything. Like, I guess it's kind of more of a heightened sensitivity there, but that could also be because I'm also very ticklish. But I've tried on my own. I haven't liked it. I view my belly button as normal, but I don't really like showing it at all. It's weird. It's complicated.
Thanks for that, David. I just want to quickly respond and then hear from Jord. But I actually super relate to what you were saying about like feeling shy and like not wanting it to show. Like I still feel that way, but for me it's just a little bit different because it's like I feel both at the same time. Like I feel really shy. I feel really like I don't want anyone to look. And that's also super exciting to me at the same time. So it's interesting.
It's like I just don't want anybody to see it because it's just very personal for myself. I don't really want anybody because, you know, why would they want to look at it? It's just weird to me.
What about you, Jord?
I'm honestly in the same boat where it's like I've tried stuff, but just in general, outside of generic, you know, dumb male self-pleasure, there's not really much I really like being done to me. And whether that's just a side effect of how I was raised and where it was like, you know, sexuality was this sinful thing or whatever, I don't know. But I much more enjoy being the one doing the thing than I am just in general having things done to me. Now, if I was with a partner who was super about that, like I'm not going to be like, no, get away from me. Like, no, like I would still like explore that. And from what I've heard from like girls I've turned on to this, it's more of a thing of like, well, you know, like if I'll try something else, it'll just make me feel like I have to pee. Oh man, that's oh, you know, is that what that feels like? And then I get like kind of in my own head where I'm like, oh,
Did he cut out for anybody else?
oh no,
yeah,
no, my whole thing, my whole
he's
identity is.
Oh nope, he's gone again.
Oh, where did I cut off? Where did I cut off? So I may continue my rant.
We heard your entire identity is crumbling around you.
Hello? Uh-oh. He's on like a 10-second delay.
Okay, but no. What is happening? Okay, give me 1 second here.
Okay.
While Jord figures that out, I want to kind of respond to something I did hear before he cut out, which is like one of my biggest fears when bringing this up with like a potential partner is that they're going to be one of those people who does not like having their belly button touched, because I know like I've heard some people say what Jord said of like it makes them feel like they have to pee. I know like there are people out there who get really grossed out by having their belly button touched, and I've never actually like had one of those people as a partner. Thankfully, I haven't had someone who had such like a strong negative association with it, but I don't know. That's one of the things I worry about a lot.
Yeah, it's a thing of like, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, sorry. I don't know what the hell happened, but it's a thing of like I haven't explored it enough. Like it's just because of who I am as a person. I just like to do things to my partner as opposed to the other way around. If I had somebody who really wanted to do that and that was their main thing, who am I to say no? Like I'm gonna try it. Unless I was having like severe, uncomfy, whatever reaction to it, like I'm gonna try to, I'm gonna give it my best shot. And I know that's hilarious, almost given how intense the conversation's been about like our dedication to this. But it is kind of like funny having the shoe on the other foot, you know.
I've learned a lot today, to say the least. Again, it's just another issue of I've never had this experience, so it's hard to relate on some of the things spoken about. But
well, that brings up an interesting question, Ray. Allow me to pose a question to you.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I was gonna open the floor if anybody had any questions for me.
Would you delve into this like with a willing partner in a consenting atmosphere? Would you give something like this a shot?
I am a don't knock it till you try it kind of person. I'd probably try most things at least once. Even though right now I'm still very kind of, there's a part of me where I feel against it, but also it's like, why not try it? Other than the stigma around it, there's no reason not to try it.
You got one,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is true.
Can't argue those facts.
I have a question sort of leading off of that question for you, Ray. This is something this has been on my mind for a long time, which is like, oh my gosh, you might start to hear my cats. If you were seeing someone who had this fetish, what would be the best way for them to break it to you? Like, what would you want them to say to you, or would you prefer they just start doing like some sort of play? Like what would ease you in the most, or like what would be the best?
That's a good question. That could probably help people in the future. Because
this is something that always stresses me out when I have to tell someone new. I never know like what the best way is to do it.
I think it depends on how deep into the fetish you would want to go with that person. I think it is important to communicate right at the start, to be fair to both people in the situation. It's not fair for you to suppress your urges, but it's also not fair to hide something so huge from your partner, because the partner maybe, however long you might be staying with them, they maybe feel a little bit lied to, like you kept such a big secret for so long. I can see how that might affect it if you kept it hidden for a long time, especially if it's something that you would want to explore with the person. Oh, it's hard because I'm a very chill person, so people can just say crazy things to me, and I don't know. I'm like, oh, cool, more power to you, dude. So I'm not sure if my experience will be as accurate for others, but I think just as a base, at least say out of the gate that you enjoy it. Maybe don't unload it immediately, and see if they're open to anything small, maybe during like vanilla things. Just be very subtle with it at first. Of course, don't scare the person away. I assume maybe if it's something completely new, they're going to be very, very timid. About communicating it for the first time, it's very subjective because it depends entirely on how the new partner might be as a personality. I think at the end of the day, you deserve to be happy, so you should say something about it. And if that person is meant for you, they will be okay with trying things out.
Oh,
I would say to try to be gentle with the approach. Don't just go, hey, you wanna do a forced outie, you know?
Immediately
Like,
coming in with the extractor.
oh God.
Get a few needles in there.
girl.
Definitely start off small and maybe keep adding on bit by bit, see what they are comfortable with. That's just a general rule for mostly anything. Start off like the very, you can start off like the very like vanilla, gentle stuff that some people might not even notice is like belly play involved. I'm
Yeah,
not.
that's like a well, I think that's kind of one of the thoughts that I circle around and is a question mark in my mind. Like if I'm with a new partner, I always wonder, is it better to say something direct, like,
Mhm.
hey, this is something I'm into, or just like like test the waters by like touching them a little bit while we're kissing, or like, do I need to say something before I do even that? Like, I don't know. I don't have a good framework for how weird that would be. And I'm sure that's different for everyone, as I feel like
Yeah,
we've kind of already said, but like,
that's what's tricky about it. I'm not sure exactly what you could get away with doing gently before telling them about it because I've never done the stuff, so I don't know what you could maybe do to see if they enjoy it. Because yeah, it is very tricky because then there's the issue of if you outright tell them, they're going to be extremely conscious of it the entire time. And that might pose problems.
May I interject?
Yeah.
I think kind of the best way to broach it is like you play it on a case by case basis. If
Yeah.
y'all are already in a situation that's consensual and sexual, explore it a bit. That's kind of my method where it's like, hey, I'm gonna try this out and kind of mask it with doing other things while you're doing it. And then if they notice it to a point that they're asking about it and they're like, oh, are you like, what are you doing? You're like, oh, I like this. And just make it a casual thing. And if there's a
Yeah.
really aggressive response, then you address that and you figure that out in that moment. But I think that usually is a good way to go.
It's an issue, though, also of respecting that person's boundaries and consent. It's entirely subjective, so it is very tricky. You don't know who wouldn't care, but you also don't know if they would feel very violated if you did that without asking, even if it is something very simple and small. So I would say the safest route is to just try to break it to them that it is something that you enjoy and just make sure to communicate and let them know that it's a safe space and they can stop if they want to or they can just not do it at all. Just communication is key at the end of the day. In terms of how to like actually break it to them, again, it's also subjective, so it's a little bit tricky. Um, it's hard to approach it lightly because I feel like the second you say belly button, people are going to be a little shocked. Because I know I was shocked the very first time that I heard about it. But there's nothing wrong with it, of course. It's just very new to most people.
I actually got a good bit of advice from somebody in the server both Audi and I frequent, where whenever he got the reaction of like, oh, that's kind of weird, he's like, it's a body part like anything else. And then people are like, oh, I guess he's got a good point. It's just a thing of
Hmm.
like, you shouldn't have to feel anxious or uncomfortable for something that's just how you feel. And if somebody isn't going to respect that, like obviously consent's already been established, that kind of thing. But if it's this thing of
Yeah.
like somebody is trying to, you know, other you for something beyond your control that you really like, that's a big part of your identity, that person isn't worth your time.
Yeah. It is ultimately a compatibility issue. Of course, the way that you communicate it to that person is important to make sure that you don't like scare them away or anything by coming on too strong. But at the end of the day, it is a compatibility issue, and just try not to beat yourself up about it if they say that they can't do it or be into it. because there is somebody out there who is, and that's why this whole community exists.
Yeah, plenty of fish. And that's why I like having these communities now, because you don't have to deal with any of that awkwardness.
Hmm.
It's just about like linking up and, finding out where people are at if you find somebody who you're comfortable with. And then it's just like, all right, we're already on that same wavelength. Let's just go for it and see what happens. Instead of this like, will they, won't they? I don't know. It's for me personally, obviously everybody has their strategies, but having this spot where you don't even have to have that conversation is such a relief. It's so great.
I was just gonna say, I'm sure the hardest situation is people in long-term relationships with a partner that they love and they don't want to leave them, even if they are not supported in their fetish, or if even if they've hidden it the entire time and the partner has no idea. I think maybe this is where the question is specifically targeting, and that's hard. I don't know if it's something that can ever really be solved. It's a situation where you kind of have to pick a side. It's either you live your life, live your fetish, you be happy, or you stay with this person and you have to suppress who you are. It's a tricky situation for those kinds of people in those relationships, and I'm sure a lot of people do experience that.
I hope that anybody listening out there, and even the people I'm with right now, you're in a relationship where you can have the confidence and relax knowing that you can share who you truly are with somebody without fear of rejection or like some sort of disgust. And like if
Yeah.
you don't have that with your partner, just in general, beyond the confines of this conversation, like you should ask yourself why that is. If somebody's genuinely going to make you feel bad about something you can't control, like just in my opinion, that's somebody who's not worth your time.
Yeah, it is a little bit of like a rude, blunt statement, but it is sadly kind of true that if you don't
Sorry.
trust no, it's fine. That's what I was going to bring up as well. It is very blunt, but if you don't trust your partner enough to say these things, or you know for a fact that they won't accept you, then is it worth it to be with them if you are suffering when you can't be who you really are?
It sounds savage when we put it out there like that, but it's really true of all things, in my opinion. Like
Yeah.
there is no point to you, like you this is something that you're going to be for the rest of your life. So why would you feel the need to hide that and feel like, obviously everybody here understands the anxiety of sharing that. But like that's why you kind of rip the band-aid off relatively early. And then, you don't get that deep without knowing that this is somebody who is cool enough, is open-minded enough that that's something they like you enough that even if there's like a initial like, oh, I'm not sure, that sounds kind of out there, they, have the love and trust in you to give it a shot.
Yeah. I
So
mean, it's
it's
very
just like,
easy for us to say this when maybe we aren't in that kind of situation right now. And I'm sure
oh, fair.
every relationship is very different and very, very complicated.
Mm.
So I just want to say good luck, and I hope you end up happy, listeners.
And I'm sorry I'm so brutal, listener.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Does anybody else have input on what we've been talking about?
And hey, just so I can chime in real quick, I would say let's go on for no more than like 5 more minutes on this group discussion, and then Ray, we can hop into our like quick solo chat.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a question for Ray.
Yes.
How did you view belly buttons before you knew about this? Like, what did you associate with them? And now that you know, what's going to change?
Okay. Um, Before learning about this, they never crossed my mind a single time, ever. Like they were just kind of a thing that people had. It's no different than like me looking at someone's hands or like just their face. It's just like, oh, that's a thing that exists. And after I learned about it, I have been a lot more conscious. Not necessarily in like a bad, insecure way or anything like that. It was more so like if I wear a crop top today, there is a chance that someone might be into that. And because I never thought about it before, I would wear crop tops all the time because I never thought of it like that. And I consider myself maybe a more modest person a little bit. And after I learned about this, I will say I have pretty much stopped wearing crop tops.
No.
Okay, well, it's not about I just want to be comfortable in my body and go out in public and not have to worry about that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that it's a negative thing. I'm just more conscious of it now. Of I just feel a little bit exposed now if I have my stomach showing. And it's also a little bit of just a fashion change choice mixed in. I just have changed my fashion style and now I don't really wear that kind of clothing anymore. I think the fashion style came first. That change came first. And then after I learned about this, it was more of like the nail in the coffin of like, yeah, I'm not into crop tops anymore.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
No. It's I don't know how to explain it. There is nothing wrong with people having interests like that as long as it's consensual and respectful. I am just more of a modest person, so knowing that someone might be like into it, it just makes me shy. And so I just won't wear a crop top.
I mean, that's fair. You have the right to your bodily autonomy.
Going forward after this, I don't know if anything's gonna change really after the podcast. I still maintain the same mindset. If anything, it helped make it less intimidating for me. And maybe I'll wear crop tops more now because I myself have learned that it's not such a weird thing, I guess. It seems very pleasant.
Silver lining.
Yeah.
Anybody want to pop in their final questions before we move on and Ray closes this out? Also,
Yeah,
I'm very
pretty much.
surprised that you guys held back considering the topic, but I'm surprised that none of you have asked her what kind of belly button she has.
We're trying to be
Nice.
respectful here,
Oh
bro.
my God.
I'm like shocked that question hasn't come out yet.
Ray, what kind of belly button do you have?
Oh no, David! You betrayer!
I think, yeah, it's
Well, I think
You
if
find
Ray
that out
answers
for
it,
yourself.
if Ray answers it, we should all answer it.
Oh, that's true. Yep, we're all in it.
yeah.
Okay, wait, what's the definition of an in-betweenie again?
It's like a hybrid of the two.
Okay, but what I don't know what the middle would even be.
It's just like you got extra details in there. You know, if like somebody's just got a basic innie, right? It's just like cavernous and deep.
Okay,
But then if they have the in between, it's like there's some stuff.
what is
in
the
there.
little bulb called?
The button itself.
The button? Oh, it's called the button.
The knot, the
Oh yeah,
The-
the knot.
so there's a
The
specific
knot,
kind
okay.
of in-betweenie called the ball and socket in-betweenie. So it's kind of like an innie, it goes in, but there's no details at the bottom. It's just like a round ball.
Like a literal button.
Yeah.
Is that considered an in-betweenie? I always thought that was an outie.
It's like a weird, offshoot, I guess.
Are you even more confused, Ray?
I'm examining myself, trying to like figure it out.
Oh, this poor person. What am I?
I don't know. I'm definitely an innie of some kind. It's not shallow though, but it's also not like a cavern. The knot, as you call it, is very tiny, but it's there. I don't know. That's what mine is.
We'll just say an innie.
Innie? Okay, someone else go now. I shared
I have an innie. It's just a deep innie.
deep innie. Okay.
Same deal. Same deal.
Wait, what?
about you?
That was so unbalanced. Guys, give us a little more detail here.
Yeah. I went
I love
into
the deep innie. There are details at the bottom which I've tried to see. There's a visible knot. There's like a fold in it because I always think that that's something, but it's not. It's just a weird texture of skin. I've never had a proper look, but I know it's there.
Oh yeah,
what he said. Oh my God.
Y'all just share
Come
a belly
on,
button.
Jord.
I
Trade off.
don't look at myself like that, man. I'm sorry. I'm a hairy beast. and it's kind of ovacular, pretty deep. I'm a thick boy, you know. Uh, it can go out pretty easily, but like I said, I don't really interact with it as much as I do with other people's. But yeah.
What are you, Outie, since you dropped that on us?
Oh,
Now you have to go.
yeah, what about Abe? What about Abe?
Oh, I thought Ava said she was an innie.
That's right.
Oh, whoops. Ah, shit. Sorry.
I can go into more detail if you want. Outie, you or me?
Go for it.
Okay, so yeah, I have an innie. It's like deeper than, it's like deceptively deep, so it doesn't look like it's going to be super deep, but then it actually kind of is. I'm on the slimmer side, I would say, so that's like a fun surprise. And it's very flexible. It's very soft, I guess, and I don't know what else to say about it, but I can't see the knot unless I like open it up with some tweezers or something. Unfortunately, but that's me. How about you, outiebyte?
So for me, I have an innie. If you turn like a capital T like on its side, like that's kind of like the pattern that the folds sort of make. I've been playing with it so much through the years that it's a slightly different color than the rest of my skin, like around my stomach. I have like a small scar or like a discolored patch of skin like at the top, like you would assume like it's like a piercing scar, but I think it's from like when I do like outie play and stuff, when I tie the string, like that's where the knot of the string goes and it kind of like pulls at my skin. So I have this like white patch at the top, which is kind of interesting. I do have like a small like knot at the bottom, but yeah, like you guys, like I have to kind of, use some kind of tool to like open it up, make it a little wider to get any view of it.
Well, I've learned a lot today. So yeah, thank you everybody for coming on today and helping to educate me. This has been a really great experience.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
This has been awesome, Ray.
So we'll just go around to each person, have everyone do their closing statements if they want to say anything. So David, on to you.
I am not much of an active user. I'm a lurker. But if you want to follow me on Instagram, I am at shitheap. That's spelled weird. It is at CHITHEAPE.
Amazing.
CHITHEAPE.
Nice. Okay, and then Ava?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I've really loved doing this podcast. I was so nervous going into it. Like I talked a lot.
What did you think I was gonna be mean?
No, I didn't think you would be mean. It's just I've definitely never spoken in a group like this, and I've had very limited experiences of speaking openly to other people about this. I'm also like David, I'm a lurker, and I've pretty much always been a lurker, so I don't have an active presence in the community. And I don't really reach out to people very often. So this has been very outside of my comfort zone, but very fun and rewarding. And I had a really great time with you guys, and I felt really comfortable with you all. And I don't have any socials to plug that I want to share, but yeah, I'm glad that I could be here. And I also just want to give a shout out also to outiebyte and Zoe for this platform, this podcast. This has been really meaningful to me when I first found it, and just listening to all the episodes and getting a bigger sense of community through connecting with the podcast, because yeah, it's just this is an isolating thing, where it can be very isolating, and it can be just hard to be alone with it. And so I have felt honestly a lot of healing in just hearing other people talk about their experiences, and I'm really glad that now I can sort of give back in that way too. So that's me. Thanks, everyone.
I didn't think I was going to cry tonight. Oh, geez. No, I'm not actually crying, but that was beautiful. To piggyback off that, Ray, I just wanted to thank you for being such like an open and willing participant in this. I know it was like a goldfish jumping into a huge pond full of sharks, but you were super cool about it, and I appreciate it. I didn't know you were cool like that, bro. So like, I really do appreciate you though coming into it with such an open mind, and you were an excellent impromptu host. And same to Audi for really, you're really the first person I've seen cultivate something off of this, where there's been a lot of people gathering and just like talking shop with fetish stuff and whatnot, sharing videos, but nobody has attempted to really engage on a grander scale. And so I think that's really cool. And you've got my backing 100% with anything you want to do, because I just think they're neat. I think it's cool. I think it's really cool what you're doing. Your production value is on point. The fact that you have a fucking podcast about this is awesome. And I just hope it keeps getting bigger and bigger. You keep reaching more people and help people awaken to this, and we destigmatize it, But for the shameless plug, I am also mostly a lurker, but I am on Discord a lot more often these days as Jordo171, JORDO171. I am planning to actually jump into the content creation sphere myself in the new year. So I'm thinking of going by the name Alvino Pro or something like that. It's a working title, but I do want to make the kind of stuff I've always wanted to see. So, if anybody has any tips, if anybody's interested in collaborating in the future, or just, linking up, hanging out, talking, doing whatever, hit me up on Discord, and I will gladly engage in that if you are so willing.
Well, yeah, thanks again, everybody, for coming to talk. I'm Ray again. I shall remain anonymous, but if you want to speak to me, I guess you'll have to go through outiebytes to get to me, I suppose. I don't know how else to go about it. And yeah, thank you for listening.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.